So you want a near luxury sedan, but you can't decide if you should buy something that's brand new or something that was designed 10 years ago. That's where we're here to help. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and we got Chris from the Topher. We're gonna take a quick look at these two sharp but very different near luxury compact sedans. I know that these two cars aren't exactly apples to apples, because right here we've got the $62,000 2021 Infiniti Q50 Red Sport 400 all-wheel drive. Now it's a mouthful of a name, but what that means is you got 400 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque going through a 7-speed transmission, all-wheel drive. This thing is a beast. It's a very versatile and enjoyable powertrain. And when you come on over here to the TLX, it's just a completely different ballgame. We're talking 2-liter turbo. It is all-wheel drive, but it's kind of a front-wheel drive based, not exactly the same sort of car. So we're not going to be focusing too much on the powertrain, but we do know that these two cars compete in the same sphere. Acura and Infiniti have been kind of in the same marketplace for a while, but doing a lot of different things. So we've had both of the cars here, and we figure, let's take a look around. Now, Chris, you've gotten to spend a good amount of time in the TLX, both on its launch and here driving it around this week, and it's impressed you, right?
Acura's done a really good job with this car. I've driven an A-Spec, I've driven a couple advanced TLXs, and I don't know, the more time I spend with it, the more I just grow to enjoy it and love it. It's a really nice luxury sedan. I think it's kind of class leading in its segment. It's a little bit bigger than its competition, and you notice that immediately when you look at it.
Yeah, it looks fierce with this stance, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it does. And you know, different trims have different appeal, and I think probably the A-Spec's the one to go for. But there's so much I love about this car. It's easy to use, it's user-friendly, all the tech that's in it isn't overly complicated, and this ELS sound system is probably reason enough to buy. Like, it's incredible.
It is really impressive. I've spent a little bit of time in it as well. So let's don some masks, let's get inside, we'll go for a quick spin in the Acura and talk about what it's offering here in 2021.
Okay.
So here we are, interior of the TLX. And man, this is how you design a luxury car interior in 2021. Very cockpit-esque, very nice materials. Everything's a pretty cohesive design. You've got this nice open pore wood grain. Any idea if this is real?
If it looks real, it's real. If it looks like wood, it's wood. If it's metal, it looks like metal, it is metal.
I like that. And everything feels well positioned, looks good, nice stitching. Have there been any mishaps, any faux pas you've noticed in your time in the car? Is there anything,
really?
No offset armrests or anything like that?
No, I mean, the lane keep assist is a little bit drunk, and that's kind of a disappointment because Honda does a really good job with their systems. And so that could use a little bit of work, and the paddle shifters are a little bit slow, but those are literally my only two complaints about the TLX. Like, this is otherwise fantastic. Wow.
I do have to say, from the time I've spent in the car, and I'm sure I'll notice it, I'm already noticing it getting going, everything feels very premium. It's like Honda Plus.
Yes, it is.
No sorts of rattles. I actually really like the gauges. They look cool. It's kind of a cool font. It looks maybe sporty, but this isn't even the A-Spec.
One interesting note too, you mentioned the Accord, so the TLX has always been, it's been the Accord Plus.
Sure.
But aside from powertrain components, this shares nothing with the Accord anymore.
Interesting, so it's its own deal.
It's its own platform, it's wider, lower, longer.
I've got to say, and I know we're not going to do too much powertrain comparison. If you all want to see more on discussing the powertrain of the TLX, we'll have a full independent review as well as a full review of the Q50. So check the links in the descriptions for those, and we'll put links to Chris's reviews as well if you want a different take. But a quick note on the powertrain, despite it being a 2-liter turbo, it doesn't really feel overly taxed. They did a good job at kind of just bringing on boost in like a stout manner, it feels. You lean into it and the engine doesn't seem to be screaming, but it's also not yanking me forward. They did a good job with that. So you mentioned this has, how many speakers is in the system? Is this 17 speaker?
17.
Okay, so we're dealing with 17 speakers from this ELS, and it does sound magnificent. Compared to the Infinitis, it's It's a 16 speaker Bose performance, and it's kind of standard fare for the Bose. It's all right. So we do have a new touchscreen as well. The Acura, I think they debuted with the RDX, and they've got it here. You do have a touchpad, and people who have driven older Lexus systems may be screaming right now in terror, but it's better than the Lexus system. It works quite well. It does have a learning curve, but once you get over that, have you found it to be fairly intuitive? As you,
awesome. Yeah, it's a little bit sluggish to respond sometimes when you're moving back and forth between menus, but it's one-to-one. Wherever you press on the pad is where it relates to on the screen.
Okay.
So if you just keep your hand resting on this knob right here, or this area, it's really easy to use. And of course, once you get into Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, it's swiping just like you would in the Lexus system.
Okay. Is it a touchscreen?
No, I don't think so. No, it's too far forward to feasibly touch anyway.
Sure.
I think what Acura wanted to do was they wanted to keep a screen as close to your driver's perspective, driver's view as possible, but make it easily controllable. And I think they've done a good job. You have some smart gestures. You can swipe. You get this alternate little screen on the side here that shows your time, your location, stuff like that. I like it. It's a good system.
Good. And it does seem like they did a great job at keeping all the HVAC controls separate. Really easy, nice layout there. Just getting right in the car, you can see what your temperatures are for your dual zone, quick adjustments. It's very easy within the driver's reach.
And there isn't a lot of stuff hidden in the user interface either.
Good.
Pretty much everything you need is a button, which is great.
Definitely not what you might be hearing from a 3 Series or a Q50 or a C-Class. You do have that 2-liter turbo. More manufacturers are going to 2-liter turbos, but even this one sounds a little more Japanesey, if you will. It's not a brute kind of force sound. It's getting going. It's doing it.
I take this over the sounds that BMW is piping into their 4-cylinders now.
Fair enough. There's a lot of room in this cabin. That width that you see on the outside of the car does translate in here. I feel like we're in a large luxury style vehicle. We're not bumping elbows. We're almost able to stay totally socially distanced here.
Yeah.
I really appreciate these roller knobs. They feel so good. They're functional. There's a bit of a learning curve as well for kind of what controls what. There's a lot of buttons on here. It's a tad overload, but a pretty well thought out car.
What do you think of the brakes?
They feel a bit artificial. It's very boosted.
It is brake-by-wire, same as the NSX.
Interesting, okay. The steering is pretty light as well. Now, we are dealing with interesting steering systems talking about the Q50.
Yeah, that's steer-by-wire.
Yeah.
That scares me.
Is there anything that this car is missing in your eyes? What does this one cost? About 47 grand?
Yeah, 48.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you look at the standard features on the TLX, and then you look at its competition, this comes out as more of a value proposition.
Okay.
You know, I think if you just want something that is great to live with on a daily basis, it's good value, it's going to be reliable, you're not going to have to worry about German maintenance and cost of ownership. This is a really good option. I think it's a reasonably attractive looking sedan. There are definitely some trims that look better than others. I'm not as sold on this advanced package.
Okay.
But I don't know, I think it represents a really good overall option. And when I first drove this car, I thought, hey, you know, this is actually a pretty compelling case to go back to a sedan if you've been driving an SUV for a few years, because it's pretty spacious. It rides awesome. I think the ride handling balance is really nice in this TLX. And, you know, it's reasonably efficient. It's quiet. It just kind of does everything well. And it's satisfying and enjoyable to drive on a daily basis. And the sound system, if you don't want an RDX, this is the next best thing. I mean, it's incredible.
Sure. Yeah, what we really need to do is get an S60 with the Bowers and Wilkins in here, and then a Lexus IS, or it'd be the ES, I suppose, with its Mark Levinson system, and then this in here with this ELS, and give it a 3-way comparison. That would be a video. Objectively,
I think this ELS is the best, but it's up there. I mean, Volvo's killing it these days too with their Bowers and Wilkins.
Absolutely. We'll have a full in-depth review of the audio system here in this the ELS audio system in the TLX. Keep all our acronyms straight. Check the link in the description for that. I think this really propels the TLX forward. It was kind of a forgotten model, I want to say.
Yes.
And this boosts it into relevancy. And it's kind of cool that manufacturers are still sticking to this class. You got the G70, the 3 Series, the C-Class, the Q50, the TLX. I mean, they're all there. It's kind of whatever flavor you want in terms of value. There's a whole spectrum from like value to performance to style to amenities. They're all there. And this is finally an option that you could go, oh, well, have you considered a TLX? Versus just like, the TLX is there.
Yeah, and this also, it feels like it splits the difference between its class and the class above too. It's a little bit larger. It's a nice size. I don't get in here and feel like, this is a little bit tight. This is a little bit too small.
Sure. I like it better than the G70. I'm not a huge fan of the G70. I know a lot of auto journalists just swooned over it when it came out, and I like Genesis in general, but I feel like if you're gonna go full 3.3 in the G70, the BMW M340i is a better car. And then if you wanna go a little bit more value, I think I would take this over a 2-liter G70 any day of the week. It's just,
100%.
Yeah, there's nothing that I'm missing in here getting this car. But you said maybe you'd take the A-Spec just over the driving feel, having driven it?
I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of this adaptive suspension. So the Advance has the adaptive suspension. It's a little bit floaty in normal and comfort mode. And in sport mode, it's fine, but the standard suspension is perfectly okay. The A-Spec, you still get the 17-speaker 3D ELS, and you get a lot of other features. The interior is a little bit more special feeling in the A-Spec. You can get red seats, you can get some contrast stuff going on. Okay. And this is nice, but it's a little bit like dull and boring and standard, whereas the A-Spec's a little more exciting. Okay. I don't like the red gauges on the A-Spec because they're really hard to read in the daylight, but that's a minor gripe and not really a big deal. Got it. So
yeah, you do have a few different drive modes here. You got your sport, normal, and comfort. I do like kind of that simplicity of just those 3. You can technically do an individual, customize things as well, but you get some cool animations when you switch modes. You get to see your TLX driving along there. Pretty straightforward, whereas you'll see when we get in the Q50, you've got, I think, 6 or 7 different drive modes, and I only found myself using 3. So it's kind of nice that there is only 3 in this car. You've got heated and cooled seats at this price point. Very nice to see, as well as an auto function. That's good to see as well. Wireless device charging. Really, like you said, very few omissions. You can almost always get into a car and be like, oh, well, it'd be nice to have this, or it's nice to have that. I mean, aside from getting massaging seats or something, there's really nothing that you're missing out on. And the TLX, look at that. You got a 3.5mm auxiliary input. Very nice materials. They did a great job. Let's do a quick look around the car and then head into the Infiniti. The one place where the Infiniti does really well is back seat comfort. You do have fairly good amenities in the back of the TLX as well. You do have heated seats, but no sort of power points. You do have air vents, but the recline is very much upright. As a 5'10" individual, my head is just about coming into contact with the ceiling. Knee room is good. You do have a center fold-down armrest, just some slipperiness there. The leather feels pretty good, maybe a small step down from the Q50. It's leather.
It would be nice to get some USB charge ports back here.
Right, I think that's the only omission, and then the seat comfort's not great, but you do have speakers above your head, so there's something. Quick pop in the trunk. Ooh, okay. Very nicely spaced trunk. Fairly Spartan-esque. You do have your fold-down seats. About the same amount of seat opening as you'd get in the Q50. A little bit of trunk under storage, and that's about all she wrote. So let's work our way backward. The Q50, popping open the trunk. You can see a little bit more of a premium feel back here. You've got this nice Infiniti carpet with the logo. Does seem like you're getting a little bit more of a premium product. Let's hop in the back seats real fast. First look, you can see this nice quilted leather. It's a very smooth, soft, supple feel. And we noticed on our review of this car that the back seats are really comfortable. There's a very nice recline to them. There's a little bit more headroom than the TLX, a little bit more knee room. You are sitting very high.
Yeah, this is almost like theater seating.
Yep. But you do have USB-A and USB-C, although no heated seats. So you get some and you give some compared to the TLX. We are a little bit tighter in here, not in a bad way, but it'd be a little bit tougher to fit 3 adults in the back. You have your hard cup holders as well, and a little center pass-through. Pretty comfortable space to be for this class of vehicle.
Both cars smell nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely better than some other brands, that's for sure. So we were a little harsh on the Q50 in our dedicated review, so I want to give a little bit of a redemption at this point. Look around, there are nice materials in here. Got this cool red cross-stitching in the Red Sport version. Start it up. Infiniti's classic dual screen display where you've got higher resolution on bottom and a little bit lower resolution, different style screen for your map up top. The nice thing is though, is when you use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, that's where it comes up, and I think that's a pretty nifty design.
I like being able to use Sirius XM satellite radio, listen to that, and then have my Apple CarPlay playing, because in some vehicles, that's a really difficult thing to straddle.
It is.
And Infiniti makes it super easy.
I really think they did. One thing I really appreciate in any luxury vehicle is automatically, or I should say electronically adjustable steering column. Infiniti does a great job with that.
The TLX does not have that?
Correct, and neither do any Volvos. And I've heard that it's a safety thing, but I call BS. I think, give me the motor in there. A little bit more color differentiation with these bright white seats, but other than that, similar sort of deal of just kind of an attractive layout. We do have a little bit more carbon fiber, this being the Red Sport version, so that's not exactly apples to apples. Handsome gauges, but definitely more of a dated look with that center touch screen. Apparently it is possible to bring up a digital speed readout, but you have to bury yourself in the manual to find out how to do that. So for now, we're just sticking with a manual speedometer. Really surprised to not see any cooled seats in the Q50. This is a $62,000 car.
Oh yeah.
To not have cooled seats is a big omission. One thing I do want to point out that I was reminded of in here, seat controls. There's a ton in the TLX. You've got 4-way lumbar adjustment. You've got 4-way side bolster adjustment, so you can go in and out forward and in and out to the sides with your lumbar and your bolsters.
Nice. You get really comfortable in the car.
Yep, and power adjustment for the seat bottom. You do have manual adjustment for the seat bottom in the Q50, but other than that, you're dealing with 2-way lumbar and 2-way side bolster as well. Quick note on the powertrains, like I said, they are very different, but we're dealing with the 400 horse 3-liter in this car. So it sounds good, but the driving experience in general is not very charismatic. It's fairly vanilla. You do have this direct adaptive steering. There's no specific connection from the steering wheel to the wheels. It's just electronic signals telling the wheels what to do. I don't really mind it. It's not the best, but it's also not the worst steering that's on the market. So I think there are a lot of buyers in this segment who really couldn't care less, and to Infiniti's credit, I think they know that. If all the manufacturers built cars for auto journalists would be driving diesel turbocharged wagons with manuals, and they'd all be brown, and no one would make any money because no one would buy them new. The general design of the interior does feel a little bit dated. You have a little bit more of kind of the just big slab up front. You don't feel cockpitted in the same way as the TLX. What are your initial thoughts? I know you drove the car a little bit.
Yeah, I haven't spent much time in this car.
Yeah.
You know, I feel the same way about this Q50 that I do in the QX80.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you feel a little bit dated in here, and I think a lot of that is just due to the center stack, but if you kind of ignore that, it's not bad. I mean, there's some nice materials, the leather is good, the seats are very comfortable, it's very soft, a lot of soft touch points. Performance-wise, this is a very capable car. The automatic may be a little bit soft and slushy, but otherwise it's decent.
leather's very slippery, and it feels nice to the touch, but it results in you kind of getting out of your comfort zone fairly regularly. It's hard to kind of just plop yourself in a comfortable position and stay there. But I do agree. I think a lot of the materials are really premium. There are no creaks, no rattles. This would be a car you could own for a long time, and it would be reliable. It would be kind of no surprises. I mean, this car's been out since 2014, the Red Sport in particular, since 2016 model year. So you know what you're gonna get. There's not gonna be any sort of first model year bugs or weird things that you might get in the TLX.
The bolstering doesn't seem as good in this as it does in the TLX.
No, I think that kind of goes along with the whole cockpit ethos that they really went with in the TLX. Everything feels very deliberate, I'd like to say. The way you talked about the touchscreen being in, or not the touchscreen, the infotainment screen being in proximity to the driver's view, the touchpad, the volume knob, the wrist thing, where your phone's put in the wireless device charger, everything in the TLX feels intentional.
Deliberate and intentional is the best way to explain that car, yes.
Whereas this car feels a little bit designed by committee style. They're like, okay, we should have this, we should have that. It's all there. And nothing's really a flop. There's nothing egregious about this car, I'd argue, other than missing cooling seats. But it doesn't have the wow factor that the TLX does.
And that brings up an interesting point, because initially, when I first got into this, yeah, it's got all the elements, but it doesn't feel as cohesive of a car.
Yep.
Which is interesting. And there's that little X factor that it's kind of missing.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with this car, and I feel like I should have hit that point stronger in my review. I think we talked about it near the end, but people who don't watch to the end are going to miss that, and I guess the same thing with this video. Nothing wrong with this car. It's just not a whole package the way that I think the TLX moved itself from. I think if we were reviewing a TLX from a few years ago versus this, they'd be on the exact same playing field. Yep. Both cars that are missing that it factor. But now, as we pull back up and see that thing parked there, you go, oh wow, that's cool. And we're gonna park this and get out, and it'll just kind of be like, all right.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how I'll feel about this by the end of the week.
Yeah. We'll put the link to Chris's review on both cars in the description so you can see what he was able to conclude with the Q50 if he's had any revelations after a week. But I think it's worth saying that us as auto enthusiasts, we'd like to see Infiniti get to that point.
Totally, yeah. I hope with their next generation of products they do.
Yeah. So. Back up 10 years ago, Infiniti was really giving BMW a run for its money in terms of a mixture of value play, but also still having performance and kind of a cool factor. They were becoming an enthusiast, exciting brand, and we've really seen that slip over the last 10 years. I know that's what everybody else says, but it's because it's really the case. And Acura was kind of going that way as well, but then the RDX came out, it looked good, it provided a lot of cool features at a good price, and I think the TLX does that as well, and we'd love to see the Infiniti Q50 get to that point with some new breakthrough model in the next few years.
Agreed.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for watching. Thanks for checking out these cars. We've got all sorts of videos, both on my channel, Daily Motor, as well as over at the Topher. We've got sound system reviews, real world highway fuel economy tests, independent reviews, all the good stuff. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you got some good stuff. Thanks to Chris for giving his thoughts, and we'll see you all in the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.